Wow. Hi, I'm Jeff the Backyard Builder, and today we're going to tear out that dog kennel. Wow. Welcome to my garage. It's a very nice big garage, but it's kind of dirty and filled with a whole bunch of random stuff right now, so we got to work on clearing that out. First thing is we got to clear out this dog run, which actually, if you look through there, it goes to the outside, and there's a part on the outside too. But we're just cleaning out the inside part, and then that'll open up a whole bunch of space in the garage. The first step of tearing down the dog run was moving the two old stoves out of the way so I could, actually have access to it. As I was moving this wood, I discovered that there was some nice boards just laying on top. That was some good wood that was just dusty, so I dusted it off and then I set it off to the side to use later. And it didn't smell like dog, which is, that's good. Based on how dusty it was, I decided I wanted to have a mask on. Got down the rest of the wood from the top. It was good wood. It's just sitting up there collecting dust, so why throw it out if it's good wood? I can use it for future projects. I actually used a couple pieces to put up some pegboard to hang my tools. The thing I thought would be easiest to take off first is this front gate, but it was so old and dusty it was hard to find where all the screws were in it. So I ended up getting some of them out, and then I ended up just kind of ripping the whole thing off. You can see me searching for screws. I couldn't quite get it with the drill. Need to use a screwdriver to get enough torque on it. Then I eventually just tore the whole thing off. I feel super gross and dirty right now. Well, now we got the front gate off, so we gotta finish clean this out a little bit. There's still some mulch and whatnot in there. Got cleaned out pretty well before we got here, but there's still a little bit left. So clear that out. I can start taking the walls down. Now that I have the gate off, I can finally start clearing out the inside. So I got the old shovel and broom and just tried to sweep out the rest of the mulch and everything that was in there, just to kind of clean it up a bit. And then I've taken off an old heat lamp that's in there. It's really gross, not worth keeping at all. So I'm just trying to tear that off, but there's about 3 different types of screws being used to hold this all together, and each one has a different screw head, so I had to keep swapping drill bits to be able to get all the screws off. So that was why I keep swapping back and forth, because every little thing had either a Phillips head or a star head or a flathead screw, so I had to keep swapping between the two. I also decided to keep these top couple boards on each side of the wall just because they were high enough off the ground that they wouldn't really be contaminated by the smell of, like dog pee or whatever, just dog smell. And they were still they're good 2x4s, 2x6s up there. So I decided to keep those couple, but everything from the wall down, I'll be getting rid of all that. None of that's worth keeping. I felt kind of bad throwing out some of this plywood because it looks really nice, but it smells like old musty dog. Now that I got the big wall off, I'm working on the back compartment. So there's kind of 2 big compartments to this dog run. As you can see, there's the big area that had that big chain link gate, and then there's this smaller back area back where I just opened that gate. So there was a gate between the two, so I guess the guy could separate the dogs if he needed to give them medicine or feed them or whatever. So I'm working on that back area now. That back area smelled the worst just because it was back in the corner and there wasn't really any airflow in or out of there. So that was not a pleasant time back in that corner. You can just see all the dust come pouring off. Everything was just super dusty. This whole garage is just dusty and covered in cobwebs. I spent multiple hours at this point just going around with a shop vac, just sweeping up and vacuuming up dust and mulch and cobwebs and all sorts of random stuff from all over the place, just trying to clean it up a little bit, make it a little bit nicer. Yeah, this big piece of plywood up here, I almost kept this big piece of plywood because it was kind of the higher up piece, so I figured it was probably okay up there, but it still just smelled gross. It's not worth keeping. Behind each of those little pieces of plywood there, it's just like a little cavity up against the cinder block wall. so many cobwebs in there. It was nasty.
As you can see, most of the plywood walls are down. It's just framing left. Still have this wall, but other than that, it's just framing and then the flooring. But it's coming along. Let's keep going.
Little change of camera angle here, just to shake things up and keep it interesting. What can I say? I'm a filmmaker. Not really. I think these smaller pieces back here I ended up getting rid of just because they were in that back corner. They still kind of smelled gross, but I may have kept those. I don't remember at this point. I'm now making this voiceover a month and a half after I actually tore down this dog run, so I don't quite remember what I did with all the pieces. This fan was screwed on with like 8 different screws all throughout the place, but the whole thing was covered in like a 1/2 inch layer of dust, so I couldn't find any of the screws, so it was a pain to get off. It was like the most annoying thing taking this fan down, because I couldn't find the screws and the plastic just didn't want to break when I tried pulling it off, or the metal there. So that fan was just a pain to get off. Finally, I think I finally got it off there. Yeah, I got it off there with a pry bar finally. There's my collection of screws and hardware that I've been building up. I kept all the hinges off the doors just because they're hinges, they were pretty good. And any screws that weren't overly disgusting, I saved. Those were all the ones that were like higher up, that have been holding in the boards that I kept and stuff. So I kept some of those. I used that to hang up the pegboard later on. I didn't want to throw out good hardware and stuff, but some of it was just so gross, so I really didn't want to keep it. But some of it I felt bad enough getting rid of it that I saved. The underneath there, those little cavities, that was probably the worst spot of the whole thing. Like behind those plywood walls back by the window, that was pretty gross, but under the floor was like the sketchiest thing. I was so scared to pull up the boards because I was afraid of what I was going to find under there, what critters were going to be under there.
Well, just about there. Really don't want to take up the other side of the floor because there's going to be so many cobwebs and spiders or who knows what under there, but gotta do it. That's the last little bit left. I'm done with both projects for the day. Whew, final push. Let's go. If you see me scream and run off at any point, it's because there were a whole bunch of spiders and they rushed me. Finally did it. Oh, that was probably one of the grossest things I've ever cleaned. Maybe not the absolute grossest, but it was definitely up there. That was pretty nasty. There are a lot of spiders. There's still going to be a lot of spiders when I clean this all up. But trailer's loaded with the play set and the dog kennel now. Completely filled the trailer. Yeah, the last thing to do for today is to board up that hole that goes to the outside part of the dog run, just to keep any critters from getting in. And then I can call it a day. I'll clean that pile up whenever I have a good thing to clean it up into. Then we'll keep going on the garage workshop project. Whew! Subscribe. Turn on the bell if you want to get notified of new videos. Thanks, everybody. See ya.